I took the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. console because overtime covered my rent. My motive was simple survival money. My role was the call taker, who keeps people breathing on the line, and my plan was to keep my phone face down, stick to protocol, and grind through the night without feeding my brain any internet rot. The room was the usual. Radios hissing, keyboards clacking, stale coffee, supervisors stalking the aisles like they owned our nerves. I signed in, checked CAD, checked mapping, checked recording, checked radio channels, and told myself I was just going to grind. The first hours were the normal kind of ugly. A minor wreck, a drunk demanding an ambulance like it was room service. A guy convinced his neighbor's lights were signals. I did the job, kept the tone flat, kept the units moving, and kept my phone face down. Around midnight, the board went quiet for a few minutes and my brain got itchy. That's when I broke my own rule and checked 4chan during a lull. A thread sat near the top with a stupid title like, "Listen to Your City Panic." Hope he wasn't screaming or begging. He typed like he'd rehearsed it. Calm sentences, clean pacing, like he wanted it to look inevitable. He wrote about making the lines sing and watching the city wade, like it was a prank with a scoreboard. Replies bounced between jokes, "Do it," and a few people half pretending to talk him down. Somebody posted our city's emergency number like bait. Somebody else replied midnight, like they were setting a start time. I should have closed it right there. Then the call started. Not one, a flood. Same cadence, same fake sobbing, same "I've got a gun" bullshit. Over and over, just different enough to slip past quick flags. One sounded like a kid forcing his voice deeper. One sounded like a woman reading off a script and forgetting to breathe. They'd give me cross streets that didn't exist. They'd give me callbacks that rang dead. They'd refuse an address, but keep me on the hook with threats, so I had to run the slow steps anyway. My screen stacked faster than my hands. The soft beep for a new call turned into a constant alarm. Units got tied up on ghosts. You could hear in the radio, officers rolling code to shots fired and finding a quiet cul-de-sac, fire checking smoke in the building and coming back with nothing, EMS hunting an unconscious person in a vacant lot. Field units started snapping at us because they could feel the wasted time and they couldn't see the source. Supervisors started snapping too. One told us to treat it like a normal surge, clear faster, keep the metrics clean. I argued with him because he wanted to pretend it was random noise and I could smell a coordinated push. I told him it wasn't just busy, it was targeted. I said we needed to notify the field, we needed IT, we needed throttling or some kind of intake split before we drowned. He pointed at my handle time like that number was the only god in the room and told me to stop chasing internet bullshit and keep the queue moving. I told him protocol doesn't mean a damn thing if someone is using it as a weapon. He told me to watch my tone. I told him to watch the board. I try to prioritize the only way you can when the line is being abused, by listening for anything real. You start doing disgusting little math with human voices. Who has real panic, not performed panic? Who keeps losing their place because their brain is scared? Who has background that makes sense, traffic that comes and goes, a dog barking once and stopping, a TV in another room? I hated it, but the fake calls were a wall, and somewhere behind that wall were people who didn't get to log off. Then a woman called whispering from a bathroom. Real fear, real breathing. Her voice barely made it through my headset, like she was pinching the phone to her cheek and praying the mic caught her. I heard tile echo. I heard a drip. I heard the tight inhale you get when someone is trying not to sob out loud. She said a man was in the house and she'd locked herself in. No teatrix, no script, just survival. I started the location routine and another fake call slammed in. Then another. Our system didn't crash. It just slowed. The call timer stuttered. The cursor lagged behind my hand. The map took longer to paint streets. Every confirmation box popped late. It felt like the whole city was moving through mud because our room was. I kept her on the line and forced my voice to stay steady. Address, street name, city, apartment or house. Any landmarks? She fed it to me in pieces, stopping whenever she heard movement outside the bathroom door. I repeated it back. She corrected me in a hiss, like the act of speaking hurt. Another fake call barged in with the same practice sobbing and the same, "I've got a gun," and my blood went hot. I cleared it, flagged it, shoved it into the pile, because if you don't, you lose the line for everyone else. I got her address confirmed and dropped into CAD. The system lagged when I hit dispatch, like it didn't feel like obeying. I asked for units anyway, and I asked again on the radio for an ETA because the woman's breathing was getting worse and I could hear her trying not to spiral. I told her to stay low, stay behind the door, don't make noise, keep the phone close. I heard a heavy footstep outside her bathroom, close enough to make her inhale hitch. I heard a male voice somewhere in the house, low and angry, then a thud like something got kicked. The line stayed open, but she went so quiet I could barely tell she was still there. By the time I got her address confirmed, the officer arrived late. I heard it in the radio updates while I stared at my own notes like they were a weapon I dropped. Unit on scene, making entry, then voices stepping on each other. Then that switch in tone when something turns. Domestic turned into a murder scene. Someone called for EMS to expedite. Someone else said secure the suspect. I didn't hear the moment it happened, but I heard the aftermath, and that was enough. The calls kept coming after that, like the universe wanted to keep grinding my face into it. Same fake sobbing, same threats, different voices, all designed to keep the board fat and the timer slow. Supervisors kept barking at us like we were the problem. Officers kept getting sent to nothing. Somewhere out there, real calls kept trying to squeeze through, and all I could think about was that bathroom whisper and the seconds that vanished into lag. Near shift change, detectives called back for audio and exact times. They didn't accuse me outright, but the edge was there. When did you confirm? When did you dispatch? Why did it take as long as it took? I read my notes out loud and hated how clean they looked on the screen, like neat typing could wash blood off a timeline. At sunrise, I checked my phone again because I needed to know if I'd imagined the whole thing. The thread updated at sunrise with a screenshot of our dispatch delay times, internal stats, not public, and a nonce laugh like they'd beaten a high score. Someone posted the delay graph like it was a meme. Someone wrote, "New record," like it was funny. Then I saw a line from the call transcript cropped tight, just a few words that match what the woman said, and my throat went dry because that audio doesn't leave our building unless someone pulls it. Someone posted my first name from the call transcript, not doxing bomb style, just enough to let me know they'd been inside the room with me the whole night. Not physically, but close enough. Watching our delays, watching me type, watching me drown. I clocked out in daylight and walked to my car feeling like I'd been hollowed out. Every vibration from my phone felt like a new call. Every notification sounded like the start of another fake sob. I sat there with my hands on the wheel and stared at my fingers like they belonged to someone else, like they'd done something I couldn't undo. I kept thinking about that screenshot and what it meant. Somebody had access somewhere, and they used it to turn our work into entertainment while a real person begged for help in a locked bathroom. Back at home, I tried to sleep and kept jolting awake, sure I'd miss another call. I opened the thread one last time and saw my name sitting there with a timestamp like a tag on a toe, and I felt my stomach flip. I didn't report it because what do you even report? Internet strangers proved they can see inside our system. I just sat in the dark and listened to my own breathing, waiting for the next vibration. I still hear that woman's whisper every time my phone vibrates. I don't doom scroll anymore. I don't need to. The guilt already lives in my hands. I started a Friday night rideshare shift at 9 p.m. because I needed quick cash for a court fine. My motive was boring desperation. My role was the anonymous driver who keeps his head down, and my plan was to do airport runs only, keep the dashcam on, and avoid the drunk bar chaos and the internet bullshit. The first request was an airport. It was a short pickup from a quiet neighborhood. I accepted anyway, told myself it would keep me near the highway for an airport run after, and because canceling is basically asking the app to punish you. Two young guys slid into the back, laughing too hard for no reason, phones out, whispering like they were filming a prank. They didn't smell like booze. They smelled like energy drinks and whatever cheap cologne kids drown themselves in. I drove, stayed neutral, watched the mirror, did my normal don't give them anything routine. They kept tapping their screens, and I caught the word Anon, and a 4chan green text screenshot flashed across one of their phones for a second. That ugly green on black block of text, the kind of thing people repost when they want to act like being cruel is a sport. My stomach tightened, but I kept driving because I've learned the hard way that if you show fear in a car, people treat it like permission. Halfway through, my app glitched and rerouted to a new destination without my touch. Not a little detour, a full new pin like the ride got reassigned in the middle of my hands. The address line went blank, just a draw point. I didn't touch the screen. I didn't even have my phone in my hand. It buzzed, recalculated, and suddenly I was headed away from the original route. They told me to just follow it. Not confused, not asking, just telling me. I said the destination changed because if I was going to get screwed, I at least wanted my dash cam to catch me saying it out loud. The one on the right got snappy, talking like he'd memorized the driver rules, saying canceling would flag me, saying drivers get punished, saying I should just do the ride. He wasn't guessing. He knew how the platform treats us like disposable shit. I had my thumb hovering over cancel anyway, because every cell in my body screamed to cut them loose, but the app is built to make you hesitate, and they knew that too. So I did what I'm ashamed to admit I did. I followed it. The pin dropped behind a closed strip mall. No lights, no businesses open, just metal security gates and dumpsters and that dead, damp parking lot smell. The whole place felt like the backside of civilization, where nothing good happens because nobody's looking. My skin went tight. They didn't even let the car roll to a clean stop. Both doors popped open, and they jumped out before the stop completed and ran behind the building like they'd been there before. One of them leaned back in for half a second and tossed something into my front seat. It wasn't money. It wasn't a phone. It was a sticky note with my own license plate number written on it in thick black marker, big and neat, like a teacher writing on a whiteboard. Like a tip, like a threat delivered with a grin. I sat there with the engine idling, staring at my own plate number like it was a curse somebody could activate just by knowing it. I completed the trip because I wanted the timestamp and I wanted them out of my app, out of my ride history, out of my life. I pulled away fast, trying not to look like I was running, even though I was. I got a 1-star rating before I even hit the main road, with a report, "Driver threatened us." 10 minutes later, my account locked. Just gone, under review, like I'd done something. Another 10 minutes, and my phone started ringing from blocked numbers. I let the first few go to voicemail because I kept thinking it was the platform calling back like a normal human might step in and fix it. Then I listened to the messages and my throat went dry. They weren't asking questions. They were reading lines at me like I was already convicted and they just needed me to react. Threats, slurs, people asking if I liked scaring kids. One voice kept repeating my plate number at me like a chant, like he was trying to make me feel owned. I blocked what I could. It didn't matter. New block number, new voice, same script. I tried to get ahead of it like a moron. I opened a rideshare support chat, and it fed me a bot that kept asking me to describe the issue. I described it. I attached the dashcam clip. Upload failed. Too large. Unsupported format. Try again later. The bot told me to review the community guidelines like I was the one being unsafe. I called the support line and got a recording telling me to use the app. That's when I realized there was no person on the other end for me, only for the riders. I checked 4chan because my brain wanted an explanation. A thread on /B had my car model, my plate, my first name from the app, and my face from the dashcam reflection, grainy but good enough. Caption calling me a predator. Replies cheered and posted my city. They weren't investigating. They were rehearsing destruction. They pasted links to the rideshare safety report page, my insurance contact form, random complaint portals, anywhere you can type a lie and hit submit. People bragged about sending a report. People told each other what boxes to click to make it sound urgent. It was like watching a crowd practice setting fire to a house while laughing about who brought the matches. I went to the police with the dashcam footage, my phone in my hand like proof meant something in the real world. The desk sergeant watched it, sound low, face blank. He paused on the strip mall, on the sticky note, and shrugged. He said it looked messy. He asked if they touched me, if they stole anything, if I had their names. I played a voicemail full of threats, and he said block numbers are hard. I showed him the thread, and he got that look people get when you mention the internet like it's not real life. He said file a report, maybe talk to the company, maybe change your number. I told him the company locked my account already. He shrugged again, like that's my problem for trusting an app to begin with. I walked out with a case number that felt like a receipt for being ignored. Over the next 2 days, it spread like mold. My insurance emailed asking me to confirm details on a complaint. My phone got texts from numbers I didn't know with my plate number and my neighborhood, like they were pinning me to a board. Somebody left a comment on some random local page with my name in it, like they dug it up for fun. I stopped sleeping right. I kept my curtains closed. Every car that slowed near my street made my heart kick. I kept thinking about those 2 guys running behind the strip mall, how clean and fast it was, like they weren't improvising, like I was just another target they queued up for the night. 2 days later, I got pulled over at gunpoint because someone used my plate in a tip about a robbery getaway car. Afternoon traffic. Sun out. I was driving to buy groceries like a normal person, trying to pretend his life wasn't being chewed up. Lights in the mirror, then another cruiser sliding in behind, then a loudspeaker ordering my hands out the window like I was about to start shooting. I put my hands out. I moved slow. I tried to talk and got screamed over. I stepped out and an officer yanked me down hard. I laid on asphalt while an officer pressed a knee into my back and called me fucking liar when I tried to explain 4chan. They searched my car like they expected a mask and a gun to fall out. They asked about a weapon I don't own. They kept telling me to stop resisting when I wasn't even moving. Hours of that, stuck in a holding pattern where you're not charged but you're not free, while you feel your dignity leaking out onto the floor. Then it flipped. A radio crackled. A different officer walked up with that annoyed face people get when they realize they wasted their own time. They released me after hours. No apology. Just wrong guy. Like I was a package delivered to the wrong address. One officer told me to get new plates like he was telling me to get an oil change. I drove home sore and humiliated and silent. And the worst part was realizing how perfectly it all worked. Those kids didn't have to hurt me themselves. They just had to point, and the world did the rest. That night, the thread posted a photo of me face down on the pavement, taken from across the street. Caption, he's learning. I didn't move cities. I didn't change my name. I just stopped driving. I sit at home now, staring at my keys, knowing a bunch of strangers can point at you and make the world treat it like truth long enough to ruin you. I signed up for a weekend overnight at our small firehouse. Because we were short-staffed, my motive was to keep my volunteer hours up for a future EMT slot. My role was the guy who rides third seat and hauls gear. Now my plan was to do routine checks, nap when I could, and kill dead time scrolling 4chan for dumb memes without posting anything. I've been doing that routine for months. Show up, act useful, don't get in anyone's way, wait for tones. The station was quiet in that ugly late-night way, where you can hear the heat kick on and the bay door rattle when a truck passes outside. I did the boring stuff, checked O2, counted trauma bags, made sure the backboard straps weren't missing, wiped down the bench seat that always had grit on it. The older guys played cards and talked like they owned the building. I kept my head down because I needed hours, not friends. The call came in for a rollover on the highway. I hopped out, pulled gloves, ran the backboard, did what I've been trained to do. No hitos cheat, just hands moving. The car was on its side like it had decided to lay down and die right there. Glass was everywhere, and the guardrail looked chewed up. A trooper had the lane half blocked, and the traffic kept creeping past anyway. because people can't help themselves. The driver was wedged in, belt still on, face gray, bleeding from somewhere you couldn't even see at first. We stabilized his head, worked the collar, talked through steps like we always do so nobody panics. I remember my glove catching on torn fabric, and I remember that copper smell hitting like a coin on your tongue. We slid him onto the board, got him out, loaded him. He made one tight noise when we lifted that went straight in my teeth. Then the doors shut and the ambulance pulled away, and we were left with the mess and the skid marks and the little pieces that don't look like pieces until you force yourself not to look away. Back at the station, I washed up and looked at my phone. A thread was already up. Not the news. For Chan. The title wasn't sad or prayers. It was Rate This One. First post was a photo from our scene, close enough to catch the reflective striping on my glove and the exact angle of our rig side light. The shot was too clean, not some shaky zoom from behind a windshield. Whoever took it stood close, inside, where only we and law enforcement were supposed to be. Replies were laughing, zooming, asking for more, trading guesses about whether the driver made it. A couple people were doing that thing where they pretend they care while still treating it like content, like hope he's okay, but damn nice flip. It made my stomach pitch. I scrolled up and down like I could find a clue hidden in pixels. The comment timing was fast, like the photo got posted while we were still working. That meant someone on scene wasn't just a witness. Somebody was hunting. Somebody was there for the worst second of a stranger's life, and their first instinct was to upload it to a pit where people clap like seals. I show my captain. He called it bullshit, called me paranoid, told me to stop staring at that trash site. He barely looked at the details I was pointing at. I pushed harder than I should have. I said the photo had our light, had my glove, had our exact angle, and that wasn't a coincidence. He snapped back that I spend too much time online, and that if I cared so much, I should focus on training instead of doom scrolling. That pissed me off because it was lazy. It was him protecting his comfort. I said I just watched a guy bleed, and now strangers were rating it like a game. He told me to get some sleep and stop bringing drama into his house. After that, I couldn't stop looking. Next call, I started watching my own crew, who kept stepping aside to check messages, who held their phone low near the stretcher, who always ended up behind the tape where the best shot is. I hated myself for it, but I did it anyway. I started noticing habits I never cared about. One guy always had his phone in his hand when tones dropped, like he was already ready to film. Another one kept finding reasons to hang back at scenes, not helping, just hovering at the edge where you can frame everything without getting told off. Every time I caught a screen glow, my chest tightened. Nobody admitted anything. Everybody acted offended. That's what made it worse. If someone had laughed and said, "Yeah, I posted it," at least it would have been simple. Instead, it turned into this nasty little social war where I was the problem for noticing. I asked straight up one night if we could at least have a rule. No phones out on calls unless you're using them for dispatch or maps. Guys rolled their eyes. One of them said I was trying to play cop. Another said patients don't give a shit about phones. They care if we do our job. I said patients don't get a vote when they're unconscious on a highway. The captain cut me off and told me to drop it. He said I was making everyone uncomfortable. Like discomfort was worse than being recorded while you're dying. A week later, the thread posted a clip from inside our bay. Our own concrete floor. Our wall of helmets. The camera angle sat high, like something mounted, like a fucking GoPro hidden where we never look. It wasn't shaky. It wasn't handheld. It watched the bay doors, watched us walk in and out, watched guys gear up, watched me hauling bags like a pack mule. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Then I watched it again because my brain wouldn't accept it. Replies joked about free access and posted our station address like it was a meetup spot. Someone posted a screenshot of our Google listing. Someone else wrote, "Pull up and say hi," like it was a joke you make about a bar. I took it to the captain again. This time his face changed. Not sympathy, more like fear mixed with anger because now it was personal. He called everyone into the day room and threw it up on the TV. The room got loud fast. People talked over each other, blaming outsiders, blaming kids, blaming everything except the obvious. Someone had been inside our station or someone on our crew had set it up. The captain started demanding to know who had cameras, who filmed training, who had keys besides members. Guys got defensive immediately. One said it had to be fake. Another insisted it was old footage. I pointed out the floor scuffs from last month's leak and a new sticker on the tool cabinet and shut that argument down. And then two people turned on me like I'd done something wrong by being right. We searched the bay. Ladders, ceiling corners, tops of lockers, behind the turnout racks, inside the vents where dust sits untouched. We found nothing. That's the part one can't explain away. If it was real footage, something recorded us. If it recorded us, it existed somewhere in that building at some point. Either it was removed before we looked, or it was still there and we were too stupid to find it. Both options made me feel sick. After that, the station stopped feeling like a station. It felt like a room with eyes. Guys stopped hanging around after calls. People guarded their phones like secrets. The captain changed the door code, locked cabinets that never needed locks, and started acting like we were under attack. And I got treated like a virus. Every conversation went sideways into someone implying I brought it on by being on 4chan in the first place. Like reading a thread made me responsible for someone posting footage of our calls. I got into it with one guy in the bay, not yelling but close, my voice shaking, telling him this wasn't about my internet habits, it was about us being watched. He smiled like I was embarrassing myself and said maybe I liked the attention. That almost made me swing on him. I didn't, but I wanted to. I quit that night. I turned to my pager, walked out, and sat in my car shaking because I realized the subculture wasn't just watching tragedy. It was feeding on the people who run toward it. I drove home with my radio off like silence could scrub it out. I kept checking my mirrors like that made sense. I kept telling myself I was being dramatic, that the internet is just the internet, that nothing could follow me out of that building. On my way home, my phone buzzed with a new reply notification I hadn't even subscribed to. Don't leave. We need you back in uniform. I hadn't posted in the thread once. That's the part that still makes me feel dirty.